Thank you for coming. I think I'll start quickly with a few remarks about also what are we here to do today. We have a lot of speakers. We have a panel as well, so I think the time will go fast. Especially because I saw you have quite a lot of very beautiful slides. So we'll see. We'll try to have time for all of them. The reason we had this event was actually because we have been working with biodiversity quite for some years, also with tech. And what we wanted to figure out now is how has this developed the last couple of years? What kind of tech is there out there that's helping us with biodiversity in one way or the other? It might be monitoring, it might be data analysis, it might be something else. What is actually out there? And I'm looking at the presentators. You'll be giving us a presentation shortly. Hi. Come on in. And also, we were curious to hear a little bit what's going on in the environment, the startup environments at the universities. We know that it might take some time. I'm guessing those of you who have experience with technology and biodiversity, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes some time to develop and so on. So that's why we're also curious to talk to the university startup scene. What do we see there, and how can we maybe help foster even more interests for this area? And so that might be the one thing that we hope to get out of today is actually also have a discussion on the technologies that we see today. How can we scale them even further? And how can we also foster an interest in this technology and biodiversity field? Because we know it takes time to grow. So we have a lot of people that are going to be presenting. So we're thinking the first hour or so, we might hear from all of you, and you're going to tell us about your different technologies. And then we might have a short break. And then we'll talk to the panel after that. So if you have any questions now or during the sessions, I think we'll take a few questions from home. It's not really online possible to ask questions, but we'll share the slides afterwards if that's okay with all of you. And I'm sure you can contact whoever you're very interested in to hear more about. But questions from here, of course, we hope to get some of those. Just very shortly, ConTech Lab, who are we and why did we invite all of you today? We're an innovation platform. We work in the construction industry, in the built environment, however you might call it. And basically, we work with doing projects with different types of companies, public institutions, tech, construction, different kind of things. And this is how we try to push the whole built environment, the whole construction industry into becoming more sustainable and also maybe more effective. We work a lot with tech and digitalization is also hoping that will help us out on the effective part mainly. We do projects, we do light analysis, we do communication as we're also doing now. So different kind of approaches to see how can we innovate within the built environment. And I think just to say, probably nobody here needs a long introduction as to what is biodiversity. Also, I'm not a biologist. Fortunately, we have some here that can tell us that. But just to say, looking at World Economic Forum, I think maybe all of you have seen this graph before. Where is biodiversity? And in the short term, it's somewhere on the list with biodiversity loss and ecosystem collapse. This is a risk, definitely. But if we look at the longer term, 10 years, the biodiversity loss and the risks associated with that is number 2. So it might not be something we're experiencing. Well, some of us maybe miss some bees, but it might not be something that we as a system are experiencing right now. But I think there's a general agreement that this is something that will cause a lot of risk and have some consequences. Also, we can see if we want to look at the more economical part, we can see that there is a shift. There is acknowledgement that this whole crisis might be moving us somewhere. So we also do see that the operational risks for companies being, do we have access to the resources we need to keep on our production or our services, but also that we see that capital is starting to look at what are the risks in connection to this, and also where could we maybe move capital in some place that might be more sustainable, but also just that we have this long-term looking at if there's a big operational risk, maybe that's not where we want to place our capital. So we see things are happening, and some of the bigger agendas. And in ConTech Lab, we've been working with some of you here in the room and probably at home as well, with different kind of projects. And we've started mainly with the on-site biodiversity, meaning how do we look at biodiversity just outside the window? How do we track this? How do we monitor? How can we work with that? And also we're starting to look at the whole off-site part of biodiversity, meaning where do we actually collect our natural resources for construction, for example. A large part of the biodiversity loss connected to construction industry happens off-site, meaning not right out here, but maybe in other countries even, or at sites with our where we dig out raw materials. So we're also working on that. And this is just, we're working with a lot of different companies. So I'm not going to be able to mention everyone, but this is basically being an innovation platform. This is how we work, and this is how we try to foster some kind of ecosystem. That's why we're also doing this today, but we also try to spread knowledge in whatever way we can. And we're hoping that this is one way of doing this today. So that's basically what we're hoping today will be, that we get a lot of presentations. It might be short, might not answer all our questions about the tech we already have available, while also talking about how do we foster even more tech, because we believe that if we are to manage this quite large crisis, we'll need some more technology to help us out. So that's basically it. I'll pass on the floor to the first presentation, Laurids. And I'll give you about 5 minutes, and then I might start to want to use this. And
yes. Great. Thank you for the invitation. As Christina said, my name is Laurids. I'm the CEO of Skylab and co-founder. This is our logo. So basically, Skylab tries to empower planners, constructors, consultants, and portfolio holders to turn biodiversity insights into actions. And what does that mean? Let me start somewhere else. We are trying to solve the problem where, if you can measure it, you can plan it or report or improve it, which also means that we are trying to, in larger scale, find out what kind of habitats do we find in urban environments. And via AI and public data, we try to measure and hand out data to people that will need it in order to plan or report or all things in between there. So we've built a platform where we utilize, as I said, public data. I'll come back to that. And you can basically search and type any address in Denmark, press the cadastre, and then our model will digitalize the cadastre and will give you the data you need in order to either report or use it for maintenance or for planning. So the platform, as I said, you build a map, then you can do adjustments. You can also use the data for planning scenarios and stuff like that. I'll come back to that. And you can use it for reports, or you can use it for the action, just to give you an idea about the flow on the platform. We utilize DEMs, which is a digital elevation model. For those that might not know what a digital elevation model is, it basically describes the terrain of the area you are looking at. Then we are, of course, using aerial images, which in Denmark is called auto photos. Every year, a plane flies over Denmark and it captures images of the ground. And those things are going into our AI model with our training data. And from that, we can do an AI analysis. And there was something about data quality. I'll come back to that. But the platform then spits out a map, as you saw before, where we digitalize in 12 categories. plus cannabis, and those things tell something about habitats, biofactor, and all kinds of other things you can use for. First, come back to this. So basically, this just describes the data quality we are capable of, or we have in Denmark and other countries as well, where aerial images has a resolution of 12.5 centimeters compared to over here, like the less public satellite imagery from Sentinel, ESA, which is 10-meter resolution, just to show you how good the data quality is and how fine granulated we can actually capture data in Denmark. So from the data, you can use it to compare between years because, as I said, a plane flies over Denmark every year. So you can actually look back in time. You can also plan like out in the future with our new scenario button. So basically what you do is you copy the map from the year you were interested in, and then you can start to change those data polygons and find out, okay, if I change this, what kind of biofactor or what kind of habitat will there be then? We also capture facade vegetation. It's not yet implemented. So if you go into the live demo right now, you cannot see it, but you can press any facade on the buildings in Denmark, and you can then, as a user, attach information to that facade about how much of the facade that is actually covered by vegetation. And then, as I said, you will be given a biofactor. A biofactor is not telling you something about the biodiversity, but it's telling you something about the land distribution or the land coverage distribution in that specific area. Municipalities and other kinds of institutions use it for planning, and it's quite good to tell you something about or scoring your land distribution in a certain area. Combined with other informations, it's quite useful. This was just the editor, so we've also built the editor quite handy when you are planning the scenarios. Could also be that the model predicts wrong. It happens sometimes with AI, why you will need an editor, and you can change classification, you can edit polygons and add elements. All this data that I just described are summarized into the land cover. We also pull in from other databases, so species from arter.dk and protected nature from Miljøministeriet, paragraph 3, Natura 2000, and etc. All things go into this box called on-site biodiversity, where you can also combine it with the field survey data from the Bynatur app. You're probably familiar with the Bynatur app. And all these things can be integrated into your own system. Would that be Power BI or for reporting, or could also be maintenance systems or other kinds of systems. And yes, that's just to summarize it and say that you can also pull out reports, baseline reports on your status, and then follow up every year on the land distribution data that you've put into your report or your site. So to sum up, we have built an AI-powered platform for fast, scalable, cost-effective urban nature and biodiversity data collection. I guess that was the time. Yeah.
That was great. Thank you. Okay, so let me know if there's a quick question, or we might take them later. So anyone can take, with your tool, we can figure out the biodiversity level at any plot or property.
Screening level. Yeah.
Screening level.
Yeah.
That's
no question.
Yeah, who's using it today? Is it used for analysis of reports only, or also for?
Actually, we are in talks with people right now. So if you're interested in using it, then let me know. But municipalities, we're talking with municipalities. We're also talking with real estate portfolio holders about reporting, but also about planning and architects as well. We have talks with architects. Haven't not yet closed a deal with the architect, but we have seen quite a few interested in.
And you haven't closed because of why? Is it too expensive?
No, just because we actually just realized that when we went to Cannes meeting 3 weeks ago, that architects are quite interested in this tool. So that's why it's quite easy. Yeah. So we are in talks with them. Yeah.
Thanks.
great. Thank you. Go to the next presenter. Do you want to use this? Or,
Yes,
yeah.
thank you. Hello, everyone. Nice to see so many people here. The important people, I think the right people, that's the most important, right? I'm Hjalte. I'm the founder of Techology. I have a background in research, spent some years developing methods for monitoring nature in smart ways in remote Arctic locations, Svalbard and Greenland and Iceland. Then during that work, I realized that there was a need for monitoring nature much closer to home. So that led me to found the company. Now, I presume we are all here because we know that these two statements are true. Biodiversity is important, but it's hard to measure. Obviously, as a biologist, I think biodiversity is important, but I also agree that it's hard to measure. And one fundamental reason for that is that biodiversity is not a unit in itself, right? It doesn't have a standard unit. There are many ways of calculating biodiversity. It's a concept. In science, we choose the right formula, a mathematical formula for the project we are doing, and we know exactly what to put in and we get something out. But now suddenly in science or in society, we have a broader need to measure biodiversity, and obviously that's a challenge. Even if you succeed in choosing the right way of measuring biodiversity, then comes the practical issues. You need to collect the data. If it's actual field data, you need someone to go out and collect data. It requires know-how and resources. Maybe you have a biologist in your company that can do that. But then comes the problem of scaling. When your biologist is in one place, he or she cannot be in another. Even if you collect the data you need, then you also need to analyze it. It also requires know-how and resources. And the more you collect, the more you need to analyze. And then lastly, you also need to convert that into something that makes sense, right? Something you can communicate wherever you need to communicate it, for your ESG report or marketing or internally or whatever. So it's hard. I understand it's hard. In our company, we try to solve some of this for you, and we do that mainly with technology. So we've built an IoT platform that measures the activity and diversity of insects in an area. You put it out wherever you want to measure. It uses computer vision and deep learning, AI, more popular, to detect visiting insects and classify them. It does that with the seconds interval every day throughout the season after season. Even in the night, it monitors nocturnal insects, so moths mainly. It attracts them with UV light, and it uploads the data it collects to our cloud system, and also stores it locally if you happen to be in a remote location without internet connection or 4G connection. We are right now working on integrating additional sensors. Our main focus is acoustic sensing of birds and bats, so it will give you a broader idea of the ecosystem out there. So we spent the last summer testing prototypes of this method. We have some different pilot projects, one with Nationalpark Thy, for example. We've detected hundreds and hundreds of thousands of insects. It works very well. We've also shown that we can actually deploy the systems, and we can do that in the hardcore nature of Nationalpark Thy, or in green roofs in the middle of Odense, or wherever it may be. And now we are putting our last hands on the new system, designed or developed based on the experiences that we gained last summer. And in less than 2 weeks, which I stressed about on the train ride over here, we are delivering the first versions of releasing the new version and delivering to our customers. So that's very exciting. Together with the IoT device, we have a digital platform, and we are also now developing the new version of this based on the experiences that we got last year. It shows you the results that we collect with our system in real time, so you know exactly what happens on in your area. You can see some of the results that we can collect here: activity or diversity detected over the season. Everything is backed up with images, right? Can I go back here? Yeah, no. Oh, yes, I can. So I just want to underline that the images you see in the bottom here are actual detections that the system makes. So We can validate the results that we get. We can document them very easily and show we saw this in this species, and here are the images that we collected of it. A dashboard following along. We are, as I said, now developing this new version of it with two main focus areas. The one is live communication. So it's meant for something you can put on a screen in your reception or lobby or wherever, and your guests or visitors, customers can follow along with in the live on your green roof, for example. The second is for generating material for mainly for sustainability reporting. So you will be able to pull out exactly what you need to put in simple figures and simple metrics to put in your reporting. We also output reports, like digital or printed actual reports. I'm almost done. It's an end-to-end solution. So we know that technology is difficult to handle, and we use large deep learning models and handle millions of images, but you do not need to worry about that. We handle everything from setup until you get the results. We are now packaging our solution into different versions. For now, we mainly work in this pro area with the larger projects, but we are now creating a more basic package that you can choose if you want to just get your toes wet. And then lastly, I was asked to tell about our relevance for the construction industry. And this is our relevance, I think. It's a tool, right, for measuring biodiversity change, differences between space or change over time. That's what it does. And you can use it to document impact on biodiversity. So that's the simple core of it all. And you can put that into whatever you want: sustainability reporting, communicating biodiversity in relation to DMTB, PR, tender products. We see a lot of interest from large development projects to include the technology in their tender products. And I put some examples in the bottom here of more concrete things that you could do. For example, put a screen in your lobby or put up a QR code in your green area so your visitors can access the dashboard and see what's going on in this area. That's it. I hope to see you.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. I know it's quite short. So it's basically sensors that you would need to put on your property.
Exactly,
Smaller or bigger or...
The size of them, I should have bought one, but as I said, I was in the train. It's about this big, so it's not very, you can put it mounted anywhere. Yeah. Now we have some chats with someone that wants to put them on green walls, for example. So it's easy. What is not lightweight necessarily is the power. So if you use solar power, it's like the solar cell is quite large, but it's designed with that in mind, so it's separate from the actual unit. So you put that somewhere else.
Great. Okay, one question.
So it measures the number of species, or the number of different species, but also the numbers of individuals. Or
no, so the number of individuals in relation to each other is the abundance, and we cannot be sure that we measure the correct abundance with systems like this, because we don't know if an individual visits several times, right?
You just had a number saying number of insects, something like
insect detections, So that's the number of detections. Of course, we can assume that these two are related. The opposite method is collecting and killing, and then you can measure the abundance or the relation between them. And of course, then you kill them, but you guess that it mirrors reality, right? But you, of course, you're not sure.
We'll miss more bees then.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the complexity of the nature, right? There's nothing to do about it.
All right, thank you. We'll measure and not kill, I think. For now.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'll give you the next speaker.
Yes. Ejgil Andersen. I'm a civil servant in the Ministry of Environment. I've been there for 35 years now in the Ministry of Green Transition, working with the conservation of species, and I'm also working with the Nature Restoration Act and pollinators. And for the last 5 years, how does this work? Just the next one.
Now we killed the tech as well. Sorry.
Well, I can just continue. For the last 5 years, I've been working with the platform DTU. I'm part of the team behind it. And okay, thank you. And is a platform developed in cooperation between the Ministry of Green Transition and the National History Museum in Copenhagen. And it's funded by some of our big funds. We spent almost 50 million developing it by now, and we are still working on it. What is ARTA? ARTA is a platform on the web. We have a website where you can do a lot of analysis, but we also have an app for smartphone, which is more designed for field work. And in the web version, you can see, for example, a heat map showing how many data we have on species, or you can set filters and say, I'm only interested in Annex 4 species, and where are they? Or red list species, where are they? And then you can zoom in and look locally, and you can also extract data from the platform. The app version you can use for, we have photo detection. If you find a flower, it will tell you what flower it is with a great deal of security. And if you upload a picture of it, we'll have a team of experts behind saying, yes, this is, or it is something else, what you thought it was. So we get a very high quality of data from our citizen science part of it. And you can also say what kind of species is in this area and what have other people found. So it's two different ways getting into the same system. And we get our data, huge part of our data comes from other databases. For example, the Novana, which is the official Danish nature data collection. And we also get data, for example, from Danish Ornithologist Association. They have a large database on birds, and we also get from all kinds of sources. And then we, of course, get from our citizen science project. I'll come back to that. And what makes it relevant for you? Well, first of all, you can see what's already there. This is Copenhagen. We zoom in. This is where we are now. And here you can see someone have already found different species in this area. You can click on them. Some of them are shown as a photo. Some of them are just without a photo. And here, for instance, we found that there's a ladybird, an invasive ladybird, bad little girl, and some other species I don't know, but and there's even a falcon found here, rare species. And you can also engage citizen science projects. The Danish Golf Union has started a concept on all their golf courses. They take all the golf players, gather them for one day, and then in cooperation with the Danish Nature Conservation Society, they make BioBlitz. And this is an example where you can see then on the day who found the most species, who found most red list species, and who has found the most different species. So you can make a little competition out of it also. So it's fun. And then you will have experts in the background saying, validating what data is. You can also follow development in biodiversity, for instance. By here you can drag a time limit here and see how does it develop over time if you have, say, BioBlitz every year. And you can extract your data. for instance, to a spreadsheet, set up filters and get it out. Or you can, if you go to Aerial Information, which is a platform where you can download all kinds of maps from the Danish government, and you will find here that all Arter.dk will be able to download, so you can put it into your own GIS system. Many of the large consultancies do that, as far as I have. Well, the data we get from outside, from other sources, they must be validated before we will take them in. But of course, we cannot guarantee for the quality, and there is a difference in quality. But you can always go to a specific data and see where did it come from, how old is it. And then, of course, our own data have a very high quality, and right now we have 54 millions of data inside, and it's still counting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know there's one question here.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, can you identify by the sound?
Not yet. Not yet. We are working on it. We have a cooperation with a company in Holland, and they are right now giving us the photo identity, but we also very much would like, but we also need a little funding, but we are looking for it.
Yeah, I would imagine that, because that's the reverse thing of Shazam in the music.
Mm-hmm. But it's actually, the sound is a very secure way of identifying species, especially birds. A picture of a bird can be very difficult, but the sound of a bird is very, very easy to, and the same about bats.
But then birds have also dialects.
I know, and that's why you have to train on Danish, but we have actually a lot of data sets in the Natural Museum in Aarhus and in Copenhagen. So we have a lot of training material ready.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So
we hope,
there's a
but
Danish
right
dialect.
now we need a little funding too.
Yeah.
But we are right now we have just started developing a lot of new things for about 15 million kroners, and searching for more.
Sure.
Right. Yeah, one more question.
So I think it's super interesting, and I really like the citizen science, you call it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. How did that come along, and how does it work?
Oh, it's been an idea for a long time. We started this project 10 years ago, and well, it's been actually it has been going on in a private side from a person in Aarhus who takes money for it and did this. And well, we thought this should be data which are free for all. So we started up this platform and said it is both a collection of all official data and also possibilities for citizen science.
And can you see that the engagement is growing?
Oh, sure. Yes, it's exploding. I mean, it has been a much bigger success than we thought. So actually right now we are changing our platform, the basic of the platform, rewriting it all because we ended up in too much success.
So here actually, as with the others, I would be able to find data relevant for my plot or my... Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I personally have been working with the law administration, and if I, as a civil servant, had to give permission for building a new house in a forest or whatever, I would go in and say, well, do we have any species from the Annex 4 in this area? Who have found them? When have they been found? And so on. So I have to say, well, can I allow this, or do we have to set up some kind of measures to collaborate on it? Yeah. So yes, we use it actually, and the local communities are using it too when they are granting buildings and so on.
One last question.
What would happen if nobody would have recorded anything on the site? It means that you could say that, well, there's no point person.
Well, depends on the situation.
Yeah.
You might have to send some people out.
Okay.
But what usually happens is that local people hear about it. If you are coming up with a project and they don't like it, I'm sure they'll find all the different species, and then they will explode up in the map here.
So that's from citizen
Actually,
science to
we
citizen
have a-
engagement.
yeah, yeah. And one last funny story about killing bees when surveying them. I talked to a Finnish researcher. He said, well, he tried to calculate how many insects are killed in traffic in a minute. And it's more than he ever killed in the whole 30 years he has been searching, killing insects for.
Yeah, to measure. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, so I'll pass it on. It's this middle one, and
Thank
it
you.
might be a little slow once you have the pointer slides.
All right. Yeah, well, thank you for inviting. I think it's very cool to see other startups doing the same thing. Maybe we can get inspired by each other. But yeah, I'm going to present you Anemo Robotics and how we're making biodiversity measurable with our first product that's underwater AI-powered cameras. I think we all know this here. I don't think I have to put too much effort into explaining it, but yeah, we're in a biodiversity decline, and especially like the marine environments are very important too. It's because over 3 billion people depend on it. The global worth of marine resources is valued at $3 trillion, about 5% of global GDP. So I think it really is in our best interest to help protect them. This is why we developed this underwater camera system paired with AI platform for quick and easy identification. This is how the camera looks. It has a wide-angle front-facing camera, a robust underwater housing that's rated for up to 100 meters. We've got the light for night recording and a very sophisticated anti-biofouling solution here, commonly known as a wiper. But yeah, we have two versions of the camera. This one here is battery powered, has a large battery here in the back. It can stay deployed for up to 3 months at a time. And then we also have a live camera that is slightly smaller than this one, but it has a cable, so it can stay on indefinitely, basically. So that one we use for closer to shore deployments, for port deployments, and for offshore wind farms, because they usually have a lot of power there. Yeah, so the cameras allow us to capture a lot of data, and we soon realized that it's kind of impossible to go through it all manually. So this is why we're doing AI part, just like all of the rest of the startups. So how we work with companies is we have this 5-step process. We start with project specification. We collect the data, deploy the cameras. Third step is usually the most laborious one. It's when we do data annotation and AI training so that we can use the AI in fourth step. We run it through the whole data set. And in fifth step, we try to pull out some insights, try to understand what's actually happening under the water. And the project that I wanted to highlight today is called MOSER project. Stands for Monitoring of Small-Scale Artificial Reefs. It was sponsored by Dansk Industry, and it was a 3-partner project. It was us who built the cameras, Reef Circular, another startup here from Copenhagen. They 3D printed the reefs, and then we had DTU Aqua, who helped us design the monitoring experiment and disseminate some of the results. But the basic idea was that we set up 3 sites. One was control site, 2 of them had these small 3D printed artificial reefs, and then we monitored them for 12 months. This is how the reefs looked at the very beginning of the test. We managed to get seal on camera. That was pretty cool. We also saw a lot of cod, very important industrial species here. But yeah, the reefs here are still naked, but they soon started to grow over. After 3 months, we were able to start making the first AI algorithms. Actually, DTU Aqua was super happy about them. We were able to build a model that detects 12 distinct species with average accuracy of above 80%. And this is how it looks in practice. So I really like this video. We showcase how the whole image detection algorithm works. At night, we had a lot of crab parties going on. And yeah, it's really cool to see, because sometimes it even picks up some of the individuals that are hard to see by eye. And yeah. How it looks in practice is that we deliver these interactive dashboards to our customers. Maybe I can quickly go through those charts. The first one here are monthly detections. We had 2 sites that had artificial reefs, and control site right here in red that didn't have any reefs. You can see that in the first month, we already had a bit more activity around the reefs. Second month, not so much. There was more activity around control site, but then third and fourth month, it sort of exploded, and we had a lot more activity, 6 to 8 times the amount compared to a control site. It's really encouraging to see. Of course, here we need to be very careful when it comes to interpreting these results. It's not an actual biodiversity increase. It's just that a lot of fish migrated there, and it's good for a sign that they like this environment, but we'll have to do monitoring for a bit longer to be able to claim the actual increase. Other than that, we have daily activity here, so you can see when certain species is active. We've got, what is that? We have wres and black goby here, who are day species, and they peak at around 11 in the day. Then we have crabs. Like I said, they're more active during the night, so we have not that much activity during the day, but more during the night. And then we have cod, of course, the most important one. We have a pretty strong circadian pattern here, where they're active early in the morning and late in the evening. And then we have some more detailed analysis where you can zoom in and see each day how it looked. And my favorite part are these behavioral heat maps. It's really cool because we haven't seen them anywhere in literature yet, but they show where certain species spend the most time. And this in future can help reef builders and other builders in the ocean optimize structures for certain species. For example, here we can see that black goby really likes this top part of the reef where the hole is. They like to stay on top. Then we have crabs here that really like these valleys in between the reefs where they can hide. And a very interesting one is, you can see the best here, but this is sand eel, and WWF reached out to us and was very interested if we saw some sand eels, and the reef builders were very proud to say that we did. But then when we looked a bit closer, you can see that all the detections were made right here, further up in water column. So we did see them, but they didn't really interact with the reefs at all. So that's pretty cool finding as well. Yes, I will quickly scroll through the rest of the slides. We've been super busy this weekend. We spent the whole weekend in Skylab to build 14 cameras for our customers. It's going to be a busy summer, but we are very much looking forward to it. Our big goal is to track ocean biodiversity changes in real time all over the world. So we see ourselves as sort of this weather station for underwater. I think we have a lot of measuring techniques for above water. We'd like to be that for below water. So yeah, that's it. I always end with this slide. Join us on our mission to make biodiversity transparent. Thank you.
And I would have just that same short question as everyone else. So if I have an area that I want to measure the biodiversity, an area on water, this is the approach I could take.
Yes.
Yeah.
We started working with more traditional methods. We never wanted to build our own cameras, but we started to work with DTU Aqua. We were on a EU-funded project in Spain together with them. And we used some of the traditional techniques that involved using GoPros. But it looked like we had to get up at 6 in the morning. At 7, we started diving. We deployed 25 GoPros. And after 10 hours, they were all dead. So we had to get back in, get 25 GoPros out, charge 25 batteries, empty 25 SD cards. And by the time we were done, it was like 1 a.m. in the morning. And we had to do that for a month straight. So we said, let's not do that again.
So you did your own camera. So that would basically, do you buy or just rent a camera from you?
It's a subscription model usually, yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh,
Do
there
you
was
guys,
the.
publish any papers for the behavior stuff, especially?
No,
Any intention to?
but working on it. Yes, it's a more sort of AI research paper than biology paper, but we are working on this. Yeah.
Just a question, how sensitive is the system to visibility, water visibility?
That's where we want to stand out. A lot of our competitors are focusing on more, shiny waters, Caribbean, Maldives, and so on. We believe there's more value in working in more harsh, turbid conditions here in the North Sea. So we are focusing on that a lot. It sometimes is tricky, but what we see is that we have long-term deployment, and this means we catch good days and bad days, and it allows us to have a good average and still get that data even in worse turbidity waters.
Great, thank
Perfect.
you very much.
Thank you.
And, thank you for keeping it so short, everyone. Next speaker was things going on. Yeah.
Hello everyone, my name is Bolette Brix and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Air Group. And I will come back to who we are. So first of all, I will not go through this because we only have 5 minutes, so I will jump into it. Air Group is a Danish startup company. It was established actually last year in January, but we have been a part of this journey since it's 3 years ago where we started up. As you can say, an internal project team where we were about to investigate how we could get more money from the private industry into transforming the land areas in Denmark. And then we started to develop a software platform to support these kind of projects to make it more affordable and easy to invest into land use chains. And then we have also expanded a little because we have gained a lot of knowledge and talked to a lot of good and really clever experts within this field. So we also do some advisory to help companies, both private but also municipalities, to make some kind of an investment case to see how can we actually look at data. More, you can say, the data gained from ecosystem services, trying to put a value on it, and then build an investment case in the end, where you can then access the platform and then follow the progress into the project. And that is also how we, of course, work. We have this consultancy leg, so to say, to get started. And then we also have the tech perspective, where we look at, of course, the data analysis and then support with the Power BI or the platform we have built in the end. So, as you all know, biodiversity is tricky. It's the same for the private industry. There's a lot of regulation going on, also a change in the regulations. There's market demands, there's customer needs, and all that together puts some pressure on the private industry. And what we do is, of course, trying to help them navigate within the space. And I know it takes time before we come to the perfect spot where we can also capitalize more money into this space. So we hopefully can get more of these quite good technologies involved in an investment case. So what we actually do, of course, we do a lot of the consultancy as a beginning, but what we can more do concretely is to look at the specific investment case. So that could be look at a specific area, gather the data from different sources. So that could be Arter.dk, that could also be GISMAP data, as I understand, or whatever, depending on, are you in the construction industry, are you under the water, where do you want to put your efforts to get some more money out to a specific area to make some more sustainable investment, so to say, to improve that specific area. And that's a huge area, I know that. So what we do is also use technology, of course, to track the impact, so you also can, you can say, claim what you're doing is actually having a positive impact or minimizing the negative impact you are currently doing. Also, you can say both on the biodiversity, but it could also be CO2 traction or water improvements you would like to have more knowledge into, and etc. And then I was also told to be more concrete in terms of the construction industry. So I will try to do it clear for you guys on how we actually do it. So from an advisor perspective, we also have conversations right now, not that many yet, but it could be interesting to look more into the construction industry, because often we start at the specific land area. So that could be, for instance, wood utilized later on in the value chain in a construction building. Then we can have a conversation with the constructors and try to map the impact on a specific area where they actually get their wood from. Today, we operate in Denmark to get more knowledge and to proven the investment cases better. But of course, we also know that the value chain is quite complex when we talk about the construction industry, and also go beyond the Danish borders. But hopefully we come to that point later on when the technology is also more mature and we have better quality data. Another example is also how you can actually transform land use chains utilizing, you can say, other sources of things you would like to produce. So that could be converting conventional agriculture into hemp production to use the fiber to the insulation of construction industries. So it's again quite complex. So what we do is more high level strategically advisory, and then support the data we can then gather from different sources to also track and monitor the data along the way. And then we also look a lot of investment opportunities beyond the value chain, because we also know that we need to understand this space even better, especially when we talk about biodiversity. Then we also work with the private people who invest in land areas, where they would like to transform a land area into a biodiversity park. And before you can actually claim you're doing that, you of course need a baseline. And here we're working together on a specific project in the northern of Jutland, where we are working together with Aarhus University, who have built a tool called Dance Nature Indicator, which is a method where you can monitor the baseline of how does the land area, you can say, perform today, or score, so to say, and also which kind of scenarios or what can we do to actually improve that specific areas if we're doing different kind of actions, and then how can we track the improvements over time. So what we do is to support all these investment cases with technology, whether if it's through the Connect platform, which is normally used if you want to look at this investment opportunity together, where you often have involvement from the municipality, the landowner, and also potentially a company who needs to get insights to the same space to collaborate. And then you also need to get access and maybe using the API to the GISMAP to get some data insights from biodiversity data sources. Then we need all that to be gathered in one space, because otherwise it would be too messy and too tricky for the private industry also to put more money into the space, which is what we are trying to do. So that was a little bit other way of looking at the biodiversity crisis and try to get more money within the space, because we know people are calling for money, and yeah, hopefully you can do it easier for them to be a part of the journey. So that was it, and I tried to do it really short.
So one question to you as well would be, if I have a plot or a space, an area of land, I would go to you and say, okay, I need to combine biodiversity and investments. Can you help me with that? And that would be data and yeah.
Yeah, normally we take point of departure and the data they already have themselves, because I'm not a biodiversity person or do not have the expertise within this area, and my team doesn't either have that. We are tech people. So often it also involve biodiversity experts within the company or the municipality or external people who can help us navigate within this space. So we are not biodiversity experts ourselves. Not at all.
but you add on like a financial perspective to all this
Exactly,
data.
the financial perspective, analyzing, and then also look at the cash flow models and see how that also can be placed to the CFO at a big company. How can you actually work with the investments in this space?
Thank you so much. Yeah,
I have a question on business model. What do you make money of? Is it the consultancy or is it when you get investments in, or?
It's a good question. Both. So first of all, a lot of it right now is consultancy, of course, because it's still quite immature. And then the investments are quite big. So it's an area of 460 hectares at the northern of Jutland. So when, hopefully, there will come some investors in, either it could be a mix of public and private money. Then there will also be an amount for us for having the platform as a part of the ongoing progress of getting access to the project, impact, data, and all that kind of stuff. So it would be before and after.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to follow. How does the financial development go with the biological or the biodiversity development? Yeah.
Data are not free.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and thank you for keeping it short. And we know that it's terrible to have to do presentations in such a short time with this very complex area. But I think it was very interesting to see also 5 kind of, in a way, similar but also different approaches to how do we work with biodiversity and tech, and what is it, what kind of data do we need, and probably we need a lot of different kind of data, and we need also biodiversity doesn't happen overnight, right? That's what I think we've been talking to a lot of people. Well, we might be able to measure, but then it might take a year or 6 months or something like that for something to develop. So it's also, you're saying it's immature. Well, it takes time. So even though you might have developed a great methodology or a great method, it will take time to actually track how is this going to develop. So, but that was great. Thank you so much. We're back with Tilly and Jonas, and in just 1 second you can introduce yourselves. So thank you so much for all the presentations and the talk, and I get to know even more about biodiversity every time we do something like this, and I'm not a biologist, but maybe I should become one, because as I was just saying, well, in a popular sense of speaking, I think what I often say now is that we have a problem because we don't have enough biologists to actually talk to all these talks and tell us about the severe circumstances, and we don't have enough biologists to measure. We have some in the room, luckily. So we have to push on also with this whole tech agenda, because we need to be able to measure and monitor and so on in scale as well. And that's very difficult. I think all your presentations just demonstrated how it is possible, but also it takes a little tech. So what we're going to discuss now is that I'm going to ask you a few questions about what it is that you're seeing in your environment with your startups and so on also, but also how do we actually further grow this area? And maybe some of you also have some good ideas as to if we want startups early in the early phases to start becoming interested in this area, so we get even more great solutions, or you have someone to employ once you scale. How do we actually do that? So,
Could we do something first? Because I know who you are, I know who these guys are, but I don't know the audience. Can we just do? We're so few. Can you say your name and who you are, what you do, why you're here? Is that okay?
That's okay. I think that people at home won't be able to really hear, but yeah. So, but if maybe when you have a question or comment, you could say your name, and I'll repeat it, because I think we have a microphone here.
Yeah.
Because we want to hear what you guys. We also want to hear what you're saying, but then we might be able to repeat it in that way. I know that when we look at who has signed up for the event here and at home or online, is a combination of big companies, mainly within construction industry, but also a few tech companies and some municipalities, and I think a few students as well. So, but it's mainly advisors with bigger companies, but like a kind of very mixed, I would say. So, but construction primarily.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Thanks.
So maybe if we could start with you, Jonas, you could tell us a little bit about who are you and what is DTU Skylab?
So I'm Jonas Eliasson, and I'm educated as an architect, actually. I've been working as an entrepreneur for more than 20 years. Lately, I started at Skylab 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, which is DTU's innovation hub. So we work with hundreds of, I think we had 500 startups into the door last year. Startup projects, not necessarily companies per se, but in the beginning of the startup journey. So we help them from pre-idea to all the way to they're ready to get investors. And we can see there is a steady flow, or I would say a trickle, of biodiversity involved companies, mostly in the food area, but we have some typically computer vision or AI-based solutions too. Yeah.
Thank you. And Tilly?
Yes, my name is Tilly, and I work at Copenhagen Business School, at Copenhagen School of Entrepreneurship, which is the entrepreneurship center at CBS. I've been working there for almost 4 years, and the last 2.5, 3 years been particularly focusing on sustainability. Then how we support startups and early stage entrepreneurs in implementing sustainability in their either born green startups, or if they're not, that how to implement sustainability anyway, because it's not an add-on anymore, it's a requirement for all businesses. And also actually been educating the ecosystem of entrepreneurship centers in how we can coach more quality or with more competence.
Including us.
Yes, including Jonas.
I've been educated.
In implementing this sustainability aspect for our hubs.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of, do you see a lot of biodiversity startups? We've talked about this.
Yeah, we don't see a lot of them coming out from CBS per se, but it doesn't mean that it's not an important agenda point as well. Most startups we see, again, they're very early stage, and they comes from with ambition of solving a problem or creating a business or doing something really cool. And having the discussion about sustainability, importance for them to implement those aspects from early on is still relevant. And of course, biodiversity becomes one of them, especially if it's a product or they have a supply chain that is easy to pinpoint from early.
But I have to say also, when we're talking to a lot of different people, academics, construction companies, tech startups, it is still early days with biodiversity. So I mean, we're not in here, of course. Everybody here is full on, but when we look at the general scale, what we can see when we do some measurements also in the construction industry, that the whole sustainability issue is becoming bigger and bigger, but biodiversity is still something that's difficult to grasp. And maybe we've just started with the on-site. Now we have the off-site and we have the in-water as well. So it's a very complex issue. So I think that's we understand, but fortunately a lot of people in here are working with this. Maybe I could ask you just saw these presentations, and when you look at your backgrounds, and what was there something you thought, this is surprising? I had heard about this before, but not in this way. Or Jonas, was there anything you thought that was catchy?
No, I've seen everything before. But I've seen similar solutions not applied to this area before, but I think it's super great to see. And it's very, also, all of them includes AI to one extent, quite a lot actually, most of them, which is super interesting to see, and that you apply it in a really smart way. And it goes all the way from the granular detection to actually congregate them is bigger. So I think it's a lot of the value chain is here to get going, right? And I think also it's super impressive to see when you start engaging citizens. That's why I also asked the questions, because I think that's a major thing. Not only talk about the problem, but start to make people aware and more passionate about biodiversity and nature as a whole. Because we can talk more about that. We'll talk about how to get more startups. That's one of the key points for that. So yeah.
Thank you. And Tilly, was there something you?
Yeah, I think I really enjoyed the way that you're using public data and combining all kind of data platforms and that already exist, because I think that's also related back to some of the science behind it. Like we know what we need to do. We have the data. We know what we have to do. So just let's get going. And the way you then combine them allows other companies to actually take the decisions that makes them more aware and make more responsible business decisions. So I think that's just making sure that we can again push into making sure that businesses take those decisions and not just happen to care about it in a later stage. So that's something that I like, and it really connects back to the...
Maybe, yeah, it does. And maybe it's something that not everyone is aware of. And I think everybody knows, and we're quite digital in Denmark, and we have our digital log on and so on. But maybe the vast amount of data that's available is that something you think maybe that if you're doing a new startup and you're maybe more thinking about a business and a problem, that's I don't know, an insight that you don't have, or
That we have so much.
that there's so much data and how to actually access it.
Yeah. Well, I
don't
think
know.
this. I mean, we can see in many domains that work with big data that. I mean, every time you open a window, there is this amount of data. So I think it's about steering that vision towards this area with passion, because, as you said, there is troops of data, and every time you start, it's so many people that are interested in just mining data for the sake of it. So it's just about presenting the opportunity, and which you're doing in a great way, by the way.
Yeah, and I also think it's because you also said in the beginning, it's also we need the tech, and we need more tech and so on. But I also think it's really about we also need behavioral changes and using the data that exists to actually change that, both from our support system aspect, like how do we help new entrepreneurs be inspired by the problems that exist? How do we help them to make the data decision based on data that is available, and changing their behavior of recognizing the biodiversity as a value and not only as a way of monitoring it by themselves, so to say. So I think it's also we need the tech to support this, but we also need the business brains to recognize more things that the old classic business paradigm before as well.
Do you think is that a trend that you see with your entrepreneurs and that way of thinking? Is that something you're saying we need to connect that?
I see both.
Yeah.
I see people that really want to do good and want to create change and want to have this as the topic, and then we need to help them to make it into business. Or with those people that really want to make a strong case from a business point of view, where we need to say, great, to do that, you need to involve sustainability and biodiversity aspects. Otherwise, it's not going to be an attractive investment case going forward, because you're going to be checked on that if you don't have that. So it's both them.
Yeah.
And we spoke about that before, because I think it's quite a big difference between DTU and CBS, because DTU is 13,500 nerds, basically, more or less. And I think a lot of them that makes a startup, but I don't know if that's true. Right? Yeah. This is for you. No, but I think many of the startups, you can just say no or yes, at DTU, they don't come from making a fortune after the business, right? Because they start on a passion. That could be a passion for a technology or for an area. I don't know what you started. You started with technology-wise, so a passion for marine biology, or what did you start?
Yeah, we started by wanting to work with offshore wind farms.
Offshore wind farms, yeah.
And we saw a big boom in business opportunity, but I think majority of them come from a cool tech opportunity that could be applied, which is not necessarily a problem. You just have to take it into account, right?
Yeah.
That it's important to very quickly check if there is a business behind it or just cool tech.
Yeah, because that could be something that actually is a major showstopper right away, right? You might have some really cool tech, but if you can't apply it in a business sense, then you won't scale or you won't be able to develop it further. Is that, but you succeeded in that, or did you partner up with someone who had that kind of approach, or did you just find some good help?
We had some advisors who told us that sustainability for the sake of itself is not enough, because you need a sustainable, from business perspective, you need to make money in order to make real impact, right? And we, from very early on, focused on how we can make money to make big impact. And we just sort of went with this predisposition. I think more sustainability startups should focus on the money part as well.
So we need the tech and we need the financial approach as well. Because we talked about this right before also, that maybe being from two kind of different universities with also different academic focuses. Definitely, because I think it seems that the focus of the whole academic institution also goes into the startup scene, right?
Yeah.
I would, So a combination, do you see some ways of doing that, or are there already combinators, different places that work in that way?
We work like that as well.
Very close together.
So we're really trying to figure out different, both pre-ideation opportunities for startups and entrepreneurs to find this kind of cross-collaboratory competences, because you need both of them as well, but you also need to be able to have conversations about the topics you don't know. So finding both the tech people or the business people or the biologists that actually are super relevant in all these cases as well, how to find them and get them to see the strength of being different in those topics as well.
Yeah, but that's super relevant. We try to mix it as much as possible. We have an event now in April when we're bringing DTU startups to CBS Network to get some more business minds onto them and make them sharper. In my mind, it's super important again to work with. We worked for a long time with the problem to visualize that, and mostly it's been very blocky and big and menacing. Now you're getting more granular perspective on it, so you can see exactly what it is, which is better because then you can start addressing it, of course. But we need to work with the passion for the area, because we see when we talk about startups, at least I don't know when you get, because 9 out of 10 startups die within. Well, the first one we never hear of because die within a day, but they die within a couple of years. So we need to have a shitload of startups that are working and are born by this passion, because the first couple of years, it's just about hard work. You need to love what you do. So you need to work with that, and you can be part of that, because we need also another thing. We need to be able to see a vision for your company. It is vision, passion, and a problem to address. And the vision that can be exemplified by your companies, because then you concretize a potential vision, so they can kind of halo project you can start looking towards, so you can combine these three. And I think this is super important for us too, and this is our job, not only talk about the money and again the problem, but again create this feeling for what it is and how we can promote it all over.
And I think that also comes back to, again, a lot of them startup dies or don't even succeed in, which is also exactly why we are here, so they can have that safe space to try it out. And again, if they don't have the biodiversity or sustainability as the core problem or the core issue or core passion, if we at least can tell them that there's a business critical aspect of it, that might be the seed of the next journey. Yeah. So that's also why it's so important to take this conversation not only with the people that has the nose in it already, but actually helping the other ones to understand the complexity of the world behind the first innovative or entrepreneurial journey.
But how would we go about, let's say, because I asked you also before, like, do you bring on themes with your startups, or how do you actually do this? I mean, if we were to think, okay, we'd like the startups coming out in the next years to, at least some of them, look into biodiversity and so on, how would we go about that? Is that doable?
Yeah, one thing is which is happening to some extent, but something we could do more. We're posing challenges to students on specific fields to solve, and I think some of these started in that area, and that's an open invitation for all if there is companies here or advisors to come in and post these challenges, and you can also do it with. They're very cheap to do, because the students, if they win a prize of 10,000 crowns, they can live on that for 3 years. And it's super cost efficient.
That's a lot of sandwiches.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, but they're serious. They can do that because they have the free time. They're studying. They have some time beside, and they put all their life into this. So they can live a very long time if they get a small push. So this small push is super important. And if you steer it with a challenge the right way, then I think this is a great way to do it. And I also think it's very important for the alumni here to come in and present and talk about, show what you have accomplished, specific problems that can be solved and need solving. More people than you need to work on this, but also show that there is a way from I think you two, you're not biologists or anything to start with. So you're starting from somewhere completely different. You kind of step into this room, and there is also space for that. Because that's most of the DTU students, most of the CBS people, they're not biologists, and you have another kind of passion, which is super important. That's also what we need to do, to mingle up with KU and Laurids University, also to show that part of it. The challenges, inclusion, and visions. I think that's important.
Would that be the same as CBS? Because in my thinking, what we're hearing also in the industry is that there's a lot of reporting. Yes. There are a lot of demands coming, and omnibus and so on, but they're coming anyway, and different companies might be hit in different times, but we see the whole value chain just asking for data to report, but also to create a kind of baseline, so you can see, are we going in the right direction, but also figure out where do we need to, what action do we need to act on first.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of discussions we're having. If we go back to the two reasons why the startups I meet come into this, either to do something really nice and good and they want to create change in the world, or they want to run a business. You can use this argument as an opportunity or as a risk. If you don't take these regulations into acknowledgement, you or the companies you work with in your upstream or downstream supply chain will come and ask for data. If you don't have it, you're not going to have a business in 2 years. That's how easy it is. If you want to have investment, you're not going to get it. If you want to have a bank loan, you're not going to get it. You need to have these things in order. So it's a really important thing to make them understand. That's like, you need to be aware. You need to take smart business decision. So you get this going. So that's how you get the non born green companies to get there as well. And that's why, like, another very concrete thing we do is we make every startup have a sustainability conversation with us. When they're at us place, they need to have that so they can understand why and how to get started. Another
So
thing,
they have to do their own kind of early on sustainability reporting, or at least thinking.
at least starting, because they also really, to recognize the startups, they are still not sure what a sustainability development goal is. They don't know what ESG is in the right way either.
Yeah.
So it's just to build literacy, build awareness, help them to get the first steps going. And then it's also actually to involve researchers that have really good and important research and how to match them with entrepreneurial ambition. That's another way of doing it. So actually finding those cases and really nice insights that we can get out there to make something really good happen based on the research that exists. That's another way.
Yeah, because also, I mean, in your experience, and I mean, with the startups, definitely, I think the time frame is not 1 month or 6 months or 1 year, right? It's several years. So if we need to start this thinking now, how long would it usually take if we do some challenges, and from the next year when they're back in the fall, how long will it take before we start seeing results, do you think?
It depends.
It depends, huh?
And how you measure it and so on.
But it can go relatively quick. Because one of the things that's pretty easy to do is this monitoring. Sorry.
You're hired.
No, you can see a way to do it pretty easily, right? But I think that the long-term impact will, of course, take a long time. But this has been brewing for 100, 200 years. So I think it's okay to anticipate some time. But it's very important to include the possibility to build things or to develop and create things. So we don't only talk about these huge problems and identify it more and more clearly, but invite people to start doing something, because they might not do exactly the right thing, but they learn, and then the next time, as Tilly say, they can build the right thing. But that creative force is super important to interject a large scale.
So also know it might not be a success the first
try.
try.
It probably will fail. We tell them all
That's
this.
fun.
Yeah.
It's
fun to fail.
It's fun to fail.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Is that the same that you see? I mean, is that the same? Is it a long or shorter time frame with maybe more business kind of startups?
Well, if we see, like, again, not to take down the case here, but a consultancy you can build and run and have in revenue within a day. You can sell your hours and get that's a day, and then you're up and running, right? If you're building a super high tech, actually taking the data and making it into it and deep tech, all of that, I guess that's years as well, right? And especially if you're going to implement all other aspects of the supply chain and aspects. So it depends on the business model and the way you want to do it. Sometimes you can start with consultancy, and then throughout that you learn to build a platform or to build something else, and you continue developing the cases.
Yeah. So actually, just to sum up a little bit, some of the trends I'm hearing you saying is also we have kind of a lot of people working with big data. We have a lot of data. Maybe we need to connect there. We also need to connect the whole business and the more tech nerdy kind of approach. And we also need to maybe have some of our companies pose challenges and maybe make very clear that this is a business opportunity, because this is, I mean, being a startup, we also talked to some of you, we need some investments into that. We need to divert our investments into a more sustainable way, right? But we also need the established companies, right, to actually maybe open up or pose challenges and show, because this is what we hear with companies. There's a great demand for all of these startups and for more to come. But I also know that there's not always a connect between the passion and the vision, and then the business circumstances, because it has to be scalable, it has to be reasonable priced, it has to fit in with what a large company or even a small company already has. So the fit is sometimes difficult. But yeah.
Yeah, and other things that fit needs to be explained very clearly by the larger companies. So, and that's why we as hubs exist. Also, one part of this is to create the safe space to fail and to develop fast and get a community to support you. But it's just as much to get the larger companies in there. This is not something we take payment for, but to tell them what the real problem is, and also the challenges for integrating that in your business. So they need to be. There's a huge opportunity to be present there to more extent than they are today. And also think again, as I said before, and I will. Let's talk about that. I would like to invite all of you to come to DTU, as we can have a biodiversity day to show these companies that actually show some challenges are starting to make a rolling business. It's fantastic Halo projects, all of you. So these two parts is important. But the big companies should also come. And also this cross collaboration, not only with CBS and CSC, CSC and DTU, but also with KU and so forth, which is happening, but not so much as we would like to.
We need some biologists in the mix.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But you can also actually push it further. Like, yes, now we're talking about small companies, big companies, but we also have municipalities. We have the myndigheterna, the government aspects. Those have huge challenges and responsibilities and need to follow laws and directives and all of that from you as well. So it's also to find how do we get a more diverse problem space as well, and where can we find those solutions and cross-pollinate each other in other ways as well. So it's not
and you had a comment? Yeah.
Well, I'll just, if I was to give one advice for startups, it would be that, of course, you have to speak to biologists to know about the nature, but you also have to talk to the decision makers, the administrators, to know what is sufficient to make decisions. Because if you talk to a biologist, he would like to know everything about every little beetle in this area, but it will be too far expensive. And I have a wonderful example. The Nature Restoration Act, Article 10 says now every EU country has to make a survey on pollinators. And we have had biologists now sitting in a working group for 3 years. I have participated myself and listening very interested, and they come up with a huge model. We have to measure every single insect down to its specific name. For bees, butterflies, hoverflies, and moths. And just for a single, in Italian, they have 1,000 wild bees. It's a huge, and you have to walk for 1.5 kilometer and count every second bee and note down the name of it. But for me, being a decision maker, I might only like to know, well, is there bees and how many? I mean, maybe we should just take a large vacuum cleaner and suck up every insect in this area for 2 days and then put them in a blender and take some eDNA out of it. Because it might give me enough. And actually right now we are standing with, well, the next thing happening is you give the wishes from the biologist to the statistics. And when you have natural, some years you have very much heat, next year it's very wet. And every different species will go up in some years, next year other, and others will do the other thing. So if you ask a statistics to make some trend out of it, he goes, oh sure, I like to, but I need a huge amount of data. So now it's really frustrating being those who are going to pay for it, because we don't need it. I would like to know what's happening when I make untouched forests or when I make a stone reef. That's what I can use when I make decisions. What do I have to make more out of? Mm-hmm. I'm not really interested in a grand trend. You have to be a politician to need that, but they don't want to pay for it. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I think that's a great, if you can follow up on that. Yeah. But it's a great kind of part of this discussion, because you as a decision maker, I don't know if you are the decision maker to take decisions here, But if you have posted challenges to a startup instead, or to a community thinking about doing a startup, what they are super good at is to find the absolute simplest way to get to that position, because they don't have the money, they don't have the funding, they don't have 5 years of stately employment, because they have 1 or 2 years to solve this, and then they run out of money, right? So they don't necessarily solve the problem, but you get many good propositions, because they take the big problem, break it down to absolute minimum viable path through it. So that's how you could use the startups also to solve small parts of it, of complex decision making.
Yeah. And maybe that also goes in, and I know I have another question just to come back to, but it's also how do we support, but also how do we speed up? Because obviously, like we have the CO2 equivalents now. It took, I don't know, 20, 25 years. We have this crisis going on right now. We have to speed this up. It can't take 25 years, right? That's too long. So maybe that's part of the solution, is also to say, well, maybe the most accurate is not the best.
Yeah.
We need something that's quicker, and we need to engage with startups that also think in another way than maybe some of the very big corporations as well. So that is a way we could speed this up. But I also had a question in the break, which was, how do we actually now ensure when we're doing all this, and this is, we're talking a lot about data and how to measure and analyze and monitor, which is what I think we need we need that to be able to act. But how do we also ensure that it's not greenwashing or ends up like green hushing or whatever the big tendencies are? And I don't know if you have an answer to that, because I think it's very difficult, but I think what we've been presented here today is a way forward to actually avoid, one, greenwashing, but number two, also that nothing happens, because there's a tendency that we're a little bit afraid of being accused, or some rightly, many maybe not rightly. So is there a path away there? Do you also do you see that that's a thing, that's a trend with the startups, or are they're beyond that? Or
I would say that's one of the biggest fears among our startups, to greenwash accidentally, or not even be aware of what language they're using in order to communicate the things. And we talk about that you need the data, you need to be transparent, you need to be able to document the claims you do, you need to know what the claim you actually are doing, and so on. But there's great resources from the Ombudsman. Ombudsman. Has a really good guide on how to use that as a first starting point of, like, this is what you can and cannot do. There comes huge green claim directive from EU saying what is sustainability, what is not, what can you say, and that comes with everything. So there is not that difficult if you just, again, find the researcher to do so, and then be very clear on, you cannot claim things that you cannot document, you cannot be transparent about. And that's something that we have the conversations all the time. And instead of oversell your claims, be very concrete of what you're doing. I'm doing this in this square, not saving the world, because you're not. So really taking it down, and also recognizing what is the effects of your value proposition. What is that you're doing, and what you're doing in your own company? Because of course you're doing great things, but again, the whole discussion about AI, the energy usage, the water cooling, the servers, both of those things exist at the same time. You need to make smart decisions on both your value proposition and how you're running your business, and be able to be transparent on both of them. So it's, again, into understanding the decision data, the data decision.
Yeah, I think I'm very much on the creator side here. So I think it's important I think it's a twofold question. One thing to speed it up is, like you were talking about, Gisma, to go towards the creators, towards the architects, planners. I assume you do that too. So, what?
Not yet, but
yeah, but this is a great area, because they just really interested in the area, and don't have the tools to actually show what is needed to be done, or model some different situations and post them in front of each other. It's super complex what they do today. So fast, simple tools like you can do is going to enable smaller companies that doesn't have these resources to actually do some planning and start moving in real life. So that's super important. I think that's very nice possibility. And the creators at our side is kind of I think most of them in such an early stage that they don't even think about green hushing.
They just want to move forward.
They're moving forward, and then at the stage in a couple of years' time, we're going to take in Tilly.
And
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think to address the creators, I think this, because to introduce this possibility I said before about creating stuff. There's this commercial from Excel, I think it is, like, this can bygges væk. Did you see that? Because we have this kind of innate want to change things, but let's tap into that so we can change things to a better way and to create this. There's a wonderful concept called corridors of clarity. I think from Cambridge University, so that you see if you start in this sustainability area, which is super complex, like biodiversity. If you start devising when you do your challenges, which you're going to send to us, but start devising boundary areas. If you work in this area, if you provide biodiversity within special bounds, it can only be good, right? So find these areas you're not from the start is hampered by distrust or doubts. So corridors of clarity, that's also a great idea to provide these areas where you're working, which will provide good result.
Great, thank you very much. Is there anything we're on our way to just shut down for today? What we're going to do afterwards, I think everybody has said it's okay for us to share slides. So we're going to send them, and you have all the names of these great people that you can contact further on. If there's a question or comment, please come with it now. But also, I think I'd really like to thank you, because even though it's quite intense, and as we were talking about, we could do each of you could do a talk of an hour or 2 hours individually, which would also be interesting. And I definitely want to see more pictures and AI and so on. But thank you, because I think what we were trying to do also is to see what is actually already out there that we can start using. How can we actually interact or send challenges or talk to the startup communities if we want something and we have something specific. If you're a larger or even a smaller company, I mean, could approach you, right, with some kind of business problem, and from what we hear in the construction industry, there are a lot of these problems. There's a great demand, but it's difficult to get the fit.
Yeah.
It just will be, and there's no one easy solution. But I hope this is one of the ways we can speed up a little bit. And I hope that we can do something similar again, and also maybe include some of the larger companies, because I know that large companies are working on this full speed as well. And maybe if you're able to actually open up and tell us a little bit about, because I know that there's also some aspects of law and jurisdiction and so on. Could we actually share what we're working on right now? But a lot of work is going on, so it would be great to hear as well, and also get what are the main challenges that companies or corporations can't solve themselves, because I think what we're seeing here is also we have AI, we have data, we have biologists, it's a great melting pot of a lot of things that are very complex. So I think that's the only way we can actually speed this up, is actually try to push a little bit more on how do we get these the mix and match to kind of occur. But thank you so much also for, your names are going to be here, and I hope that you're going to be approached and get a lot of challenges. But also, if there's some way else, this is just to write to you guys, and then you can, So that's the best way forward. That's great. And
Why don't we hold the next one on DTU, so we can have a host of DTU students part of this too, to be inspired, because they need to.
Yes, we're ready. Thank you so much. So to be continued.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for showing us today.